Couple asks husband's mom for a life-changing favor. Her reaction is unexpected. People in committed relationships usually make sure to have the talk. They need to decide if they want to become parents. While some couples are fortunate enough to become parents when they're ready, others don't always get their wish. Kayla and Cody Jones of Texarkana, Arkansas, couldn't have been more thrilled to start a family after getting married. When things weren't going according to plan, the Joneses reached out to a family member to see if there was anything they could do to help. Kayla and Cody Jones got married in 2012, and one of the most important things they wanted to accomplish in their marriage was becoming parents. The Joneses made a nice life for themselves in Texarkana, Arkansas. They were already the owners of a couple of dogs and wanted to add a new baby to the mix. A little bit of time passed before they began to try for a baby with their extended family's support. Before Kayla and Cody were married, Kayla had dreamed of being the matriarch of a big family. It was important that she and Cody tried while she was at a young enough age during her late 20s. The Joneses were eager to get started and add a new addition to their family. But things weren't going the way they'd hoped. Many months started to pass, and Kayla was never able to get pregnant. Soon she realized why. Cody and Kayla were frustrated that there was nothing they could do to get Kayla pregnant. After realizing there wasn't anything they could do on their own, Kayla was ready to share her secret with Cody. Kayla had an operation when she was 17 years old to remove a benign tumor from her uterus. It forced her to undergo a partial hysterectomy. This meant that she could keep her ovaries, but probably wouldn't be able to carry a child. The Joneses wanted to be completely sure that there was no way Kayla could ever become pregnant. Much to their dismay, the doctors confirmed that it would never be possible for her to get pregnant. Kayla and Cody were absolutely devastated by the news, but didn't want to give up on their dream of becoming parents. It was time to look for some alternative options that could bring them a child, such as adoption or surrogacy. While Cody and Kayla might not have a baby the way they imagined, it didn't mean that it wasn't possible. The doctor's news discouraged them for a little while, but they knew they had to keep trying. They were both upset they couldn't have the baby on their own, but started to plan what they'd do instead. It took all their energy, and breakdowns were inevitable. Yet the two knew there had to be a way for them to become parents in the near future. Cody was adamant that his and Kayla's baby would need to be biologically his. He was fearful to tell Kayla how he truly felt, but once he opened up, she understood completely. Their compromise was to start looking into adoption. While the kid might not be biologically his, she reassured Cody that they could still be loving parents to a great kid. As they got deeper into the adoption process, the couple realized they were not prepared for it. The most logical step for Cody and Kayla after getting the doctor's news was adoption. As they looked into it more, it seemed like adoption wouldn't work for them. First, the fees were astronomically high. Also, the adoption process usually takes a very long time. They started to consider in vitro fertilization, IVF, but that was about as expensive as adoption. Then Kayla and Cody had a sudden realization that could give them what they truly wanted. While Kayla's partial hysterectomy left her unable to have children, she was thankful she still had her ovaries. This gave them the idea that they could have a baby through surrogacy that could still be biologically theirs. Since the Joneses didn't have a lot of money to spend on surrogacy, they needed to find an affordable way to get the process started. Luckily, there was someone close to them who was ready to help them out. The first person Cody and Kayla turned to for advice when they decided to go on the surrogacy route was Cody's mother, Patty Ressiker. Patty cared for both of them deeply and felt awful that they couldn't have a baby the way they planned. Cody was her only child, so she wanted to make sure that he would be able to give her a grandchild by any means necessary. Then Patty had an idea that would change everything. Cody and Kayla were fortunate to find a few willing surrogates who wouldn't charge them a lot and started the process. The Joneses seemed hopeful, but the feeling subdued when none of the surrogates could get pregnant with their baby. While this really upset Kayla and Cody, it was also heartbreaking for Patty. She wanted this to work just as much as her son and daughter-in-law. It was time for her to tell them her idea. Patty jokingly told Kayla and Cody that she would be their surrogate. They thought this could never happen because Patty was in her early 50s and going through menopause. The Joneses continued on with their surrogacy search but grew desperate when none of them worked. Finally, Patty got serious about being their surrogate and told them it was a done deal. No one thought it would work, but she got some tests done at the doctor's office, and they said she could do it. After receiving the great news from the doctor, the family wanted to start immediately with the IVF process. Their first attempt resulted in an embryo loss, but they weren't ready to give up yet. They tried IVF again a couple months later, and Patty had Cody and Kayla test her urine while she went to work. The couple tested her urine at home and got the results they had been hoping for all along. Kayla and Cody stared at Patty's pregnancy test and saw 2 faint pink lines come through. This meant that the embryo took and Patty was pregnant with their baby. They raced to Patty's work to tell her the good news. Cody and Kayla pulled out the pregnancy test and let her discover what was going on. Then she burst into tears of pure joy and excitement. Patty would carry her own grandchild and was happy to do so. While the 3 of them were thrilled that they would be bringing a new baby into the world, they started to think about how the situation looked to outsiders. A grandmother giving birth to her own grandchild isn't something people hear about every day. The fear quickly washed over them because Kayla and Cody thought there could be no better person carrying their child than someone who would love the baby just as much as they would. Since Patty was in her early 50s, the Joneses were still concerned that something could go wrong during her pregnancy. Even though she was cleared by the doctors, it still wasn't a sure thing. In order to make sure nothing bad would happen, Patty kept herself in top physical shape and followed all of the doctor's orders. She knew how much Cody and Kayla had tried to have a baby and would be devastated if she was the one who prevented it from happening. It's a good thing Patty was extra cautious throughout her pregnancy because she was able to successfully deliver her grandson. Cross Allen Jones was born via C-section on December 30th, 2017. I'm so amazed at this sweet miracle. Having him via surrogacy was not always easy and definitely not easy for Patty. But having him here makes all the hard days worth it, said Kayla. Cross was born smiling and healthy, which was a big relief to everyone involved. Recovering from a pregnancy and a C-section is no easy task, especially for someone in their 50s. The family was a bit worried with how Patty would feel after giving birth to Cross. Patty admitted that it really took a toll on her body, but it was all worth it. She would always be the one who gave birth to her grandson, and she was ecstatic that Kayla and Cody could begin their journey into parenthood. If it wasn't for Cody's mother, the Joneses probably wouldn't have gotten the chance to become parents. They are forever grateful to their mother and mother-in-law for giving them Cross. Kayla said Cross couldn't have been a happier baby, and she and Cody never went through any complications with him as he started to grow. Cody is still getting used to fatherhood and is glad he has both Kayla and his mom by his side to help him along the way. Kayla and Cody showed firsthand how long and difficult it can be to become parents. They had to go through several missteps in order to have their son, and know how frustrating it can get. The Joneses are aware that there are so many other people in the same position as them, and they wanted to share some encouraging words. Where there is a will, there is a way, even if you don't have a grandmother who can help you get there, they said. The Jones family journey isn't over yet. After Patty got pregnant, they started a Facebook page called Creating Baby Jones. Here, users can see posts about what their surrogacy experience entailed. They are still updating the page with posts about how Cross is doing now in his toddler years. For the most part, we have had great reactions to our story. Some people find it weird, but if they understood the process, it might not seem so weird to them, said Kayla.